And we have Tim and Jim.
Oh. Hi, Tim. Hi, Jim.
Hi, y'all.
Great to be here.
So excited to see you and meet you in person, kind of ish.
Yes, kind of ish.
Well, we wanted to change things up a little, right? Because it is no, not another live show. So
yeah,
get to be a little out of character.
So I want to know, how did you guys come up with that live show name?
Tim.
I did.
Our person. Tim, you tell us.
Well, we went through a convoluted process of suggesting names, and the trouble was that all the other names we could think of, either all the like branding and all, it was already a show with that name, or it had some sort of weird acronym that didn't sound nice or something along those lines. So. And the name comes from the fact that there were just so many people launching shows at the start of the COVID thing. And we were launching a show right at the beginning of the COVID lockdown thing. So we were doing exactly the same thing as everybody else. So that's kind of where the background of the show name comes from.
And we ended up with the acronym, if you read, with April, Christelle, Tim, ACT, or like it'll be this little secret.
It could have been CAT if we'd rearranged. CAT. If you Christelle and April were the other way around, it's CAT or ACT. Or well, anyway, we're getting well away from the topic. You two have your own show, which has got its own interesting name.
It does.
It's very, very original.
Yeah. And how did you determine who was going to be the first person in the name and who was going to be the second person in the
name? I think I just said, hey, I said, let's have your name first. I was like, it was fine with me. He invited me to be on what used to be his show to co-host. So it's like, let's make it the Tim and Jim show. And seems to work, They almost rhyme either way, right? Because you're just changing one letter.
True. Yeah, I remember Jim suggesting the Tim and Jim show. And I said, okay.
Right.
You guys get along very well. Can you tell us a little bit about your show? Tell us what makes you excited about doing your show.
Tim, you go first.
Jim always does this to me on shows. He always says, I go first because my name is the first in the name of the show. So wait, what was the question again?
Tell us about your show. What makes you What do you do on your show? Who are you talking to?
Yeah, so every Wednesday at noon Eastern time, we bring on somebody who's an expert in marketing, entrepreneurship, or public relations to help small businesses grow. And we also have a marketer audience as well, just because of the guests we get and the people they know. But yeah, we've had shows on many different topics, from live streaming to Twitter to Google My Business to so many other more. I need more coffee. Where's my coffee?
Where's the donuts, Tim?
I know. I forgot. I thought you guys were bringing them. What happened?
Well, we didn't know you were going to break into the set of Hamilton. So it's like we didn't have any coffee anyway.
Don't tell. It's not supposed to be going on. It's coming to Disney Plus, but it's shh. Don't tell anyone.
I see that Jim is keeping guard for you outside in the brick wall outside the Hamilton venue.
Is it actually coming to Disney Plus?
It is. Yeah, sometime in early June, I believe it is.
Oh, do you see my face right now?
Is that Hamilton or Dunkin
Breaking news? Breaking news.
Jim, you tell us about the show. What excites you about putting the show on?
So I think what excites me is the conversations that we get to have with our guests. In fact, Tim Lewis has been one of our guests.
I've been on the show. Yeah.
And tomorrow is actually episode 88. We're going to have Jeff C., the Manly Pinterest guy, on. We're going to be talking about how to repurpose like this show, because we do a horrible job of repurposing our own show. So we figure we might learn a couple things. but yeah, it's exciting. And then episode 100 in August, we actually have Andrew and Pete will be our guest, and we'll have some giveaways. And so, yeah, it's just, it's kind of taken on a life of its own, I think. We still don't have that Dunkin sponsorship that Tim so desperately wants.
But maybe this show will do it.
Right?
Maybe they'll pay attention finally because of the "Oh no, not another live show."
Yeah.
With donuts. We keep tagging you and the donuts together, Tim, on purpose.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, it's been we started out just on both our Facebook pages, and at first the program we used to use, it was like we would have to cross post, which, if some people may not know, is where you can go live on another page, but you're not able to share the comments. And then thanks to StreamYard, we got up to we're now on 5 destinations. Now it's interesting. This just happened when we were setting up the show this week. You can go live on both of our LinkedIn profiles, but now apparently it won't let you. So we're going to go live on Twitter tomorrow.
Oh my goodness.
So
big news.
Yeah, that should be interesting because you're really active on Twitter, Jim.
A little bit active.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I was talking to Tim about that before, Tim Lewis before the show about Twitter, because that's how Tim Lewis and I met. I would say was Twitter, right?
Yeah, probably the Twitter Smarter chat.
Twitter
I guess.
Smarter chat, yes.
Or you were, or you maybe still are.
I'm a greeter for the Twitter Smarter team. Yes, and every Thursday at 1. And there's more Twitter chats coming out. There's Agora Pulse is starting agency chat Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is right after Twitter Smarter. And I believe that I'm trying to remember, it might be the Flip EDU chat. Janet Spire, there's Flipboard starting a chat, and that's going to be tomorrow at 5 or 2 Eastern, I think, or 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern, I believe. So they're starting a chat as well about Flipboard, because I got really excited with Flipboard when they were on Twitter Smarter a couple weeks ago. I didn't realize all the things you could do with Flipboard, and she's coming on our show in July to talk about Flipboard. So we try to bring on people that really can add value, and I've really enjoyed watching your guys' show. And it's so funny, right? That's how I learned about Facebook captioning stuff. It's like, why am I seeing captions? And
I know it is odd. It's like it's a newish feature that just appeared, and it's actually quite surprisingly good, but. It must be worrying the people who do provide captions for video, because they're like, well, why are we doing? Why do we need to do captions if Facebook's going to do it for us?
Right. I've been curious though. Have any of you gone in to see, will it let you look at the caption file after the fact if you want to make corrections?
I don't know. I haven't. I mean, I've been the person who's done most of the show stuff, and I've not really looked at it. I know Christelle's actually done more looking at the statistics and stuff than I have. But yeah, I mean, I've not looked to see if we can download the captions or do anything to them.
Right. Right. I haven't either.
I did notice. You probably noticed, and this is possibly why you're asking. Have you noticed the words being a little bit off? Yes. Slightly, if it doesn't catch exactly what you're saying, it'll be a little bit off, and you're like, "Oh, okay, that's." I have
captions are really, really hard to do well. I mean, there's so many automated services out there, and they don't get any. If you have any kind of accent whatsoever that is not standard, so if you've got a very standard East Coast or West Coast accent, you've got a good chance it might be able to do it. Yeah. But it seems like if you interview an Irish person or something like that, you have gotten the captions are going to be way off. They're always and because I always have this problem with podcasting. I spent ages trying to get decent transcription software, and in the end, I used Rev.com because they just use people to do it.
Right.
But yeah, captions are actually really hard to do well, and live captions like what they're doing on Facebook is even harder. But if it's live, then people kind of know anyway that it's live, so they're a bit more forgiving.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned, Jim and Tim, you're going live on LinkedIn and you're going live on Twitter. I haven't seen anyone do that. What platform is your favorite to go live on?
Tim, you go first.
So my favorite to go live on is, well, it's evolved. It used to be Facebook, but I've been spending a lot more time on LinkedIn this year. I would say that's the main social network I'm focusing on this year. And so I have a really engaged community over there. So I would say LinkedIn, because I tend to get the most engagement over there. You know, people commenting the most and reacting to the shows. So my number one is LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I would say I like LinkedIn, but I'm really more excited about our YouTube channel getting built, because you start to see the subscriber numbers, you can see the views, you can, keep improving your videos, SEO, things like that. And I think for the longer term, especially with the show length that we have, that's really a better place. Facebook, I think, as you guys have probably seen, is somewhat of that hit or miss as to whether or not, and it's not that people don't like your show, it's the fact that they don't always know that it's on. Like Facebook doesn't make it easy, unless you're one of these people that they really like, and then they put you in Facebook Watch. But even to get the numbers to quote unquote monetize your show takes an incredible amount of views for a certain length of time, and to me it's just not worth, if you want to call it, the headache, because I think, in our case we have a very specific audience, and I'm sure that's some of what you guys are doing as well, is figuring out where do we really want people to watch. I'm interested in Twitter because, being our first time on Twitter tomorrow, I know I just worked with Samantha Kelly last week and using StreamYard, and she was very excited that she was able to she's now going live on both Facebook and Twitter, and it's allowing her to reach her audience, very quickly. It can be short, to the point, quick tips, and and the nice thing is, right, a lot of people get hung up on live viewers. It's really about your replay viewers.
Yeah. I mean, I did a whole month of going live on Twitter about 2 years ago, and it's good in a way, but the only thing that you do get quite aggressive comments on Twitter, because it's Twitter. And so that's something to prepare for, but you will get comments on Twitter. I mean, so far we've had Jim and Christelle talking on it surprises me with this show that sometimes we'll get huge, massive comments right from the start, and then suddenly somewhere. But I think a lot of it is, I mean, I know, and I've helped other people's shows with this, is like a lot of the time you just need somebody to start commenting, and then everybody comes and comments, because nobody wants to be the first person to comment on the show.
Yeah, and if you talk about simple, easy things a lot of times until they feel comfortable with asking a question that they really want to ask. Well,
I mean, that's where things like quizzes and the like, actually, if you're asking what is this, then people can come in and say, like, if I put a picture of the Statue of Liberty up and people say like, oh, that's the Statue of Liberty, then people will do that in the comments, because it's not quite like they're feeling they're starting a conversation or something.
Well, you guys definitely asked some hard questions on your Thursday show.
Jim and Tim have helped me tremendously. Tim Lewis comes out with,
yeah, like,
well, you're lucky. I almost thought about asking who the Supreme Court judges were last Thursday. And it's just like,
a couple of them.
Jim, you both helped me a lot. My face is like, I go into panic anxiety mode like I'm in high school. And then Jim and Tim come on, and I'm like, okay, everything is going to be all right.
Tim's got his professor stick out. Right? I'm going to get you for not knowing the answers.
Everything is all right. Question about social media, going back to social media, because you are doing such a huge thing in social media for nonprofits, for businesses. What platform should they be on?
Tim?
It depends on the kind of business. So like if you're a B2B kind of business, then I would say you would probably want to be on LinkedIn, maybe YouTube. If you're more a consumer business, probably more like Instagram, Facebook. Although I know there's B2Bs that also use Instagram as well. That's That's what I would say. It depends on who your audience is. I know it's a very vague answer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think Tim brings up a lot of great points. I also think that what you have to be careful about is feeling like you have to be everywhere as a business or a nonprofit. But even from the perspective of a nonprofit, right? If you have a Facebook page, then maybe create a community, a Facebook group where you invite your volunteers so you can actually communicate with them. You really can't do that as easily on the other channels. But then again, maybe a nonprofit wants to have a LinkedIn company page where they can highlight some of the things they're doing, the events they've got coming up. I mean, LinkedIn has really started to grow the event capability, to include doing virtual events. And then when I look at Instagram, Facebook last week rolled out shops for Instagram and Facebook as a more prominent feature. I think that could be really good for visual businesses that want to sell products, but they don't necessarily need to be on LinkedIn. And, Twitter is one of those to me, to be successful on Twitter, you have to be active and engaged. If you're not, it's going to be very difficult for it to do anything with you. I think, Tim, doing Twitter chats, how that can be. And even that's not a guarantee of, because you participate in a chat, that you're going to get a lot of people necessarily participate in the chat, because a lot of people don't even know what a Twitter chat is. I think I like Twitter from the openness of the platform, easy to share things. The others tend to punish you for link sharing to get them off platform, unless you're running ads. So that's kind of my answer. But I definitely think nonprofits don't take enough advantage of building community in groups, especially on Facebook, to get their tribe engaged, and they're not consistent.
I think we need to come up with a way to identify the two Tims.
Yeah.
Well, we could say Big Tim, Little Tim.
All right. Well, you could wave your magic.
Tim Lewis.
Magic wand.
It is.
The magic. I mean, it's
my Merlin wand.
I kind of thought you were talking about me when you were talking about running Twitter chat.
I was.
I was nodding my head, and then I was like, no, I'm not very active on Twitter.
We haven't launched Dunkin Chat yet. That's the thing. That would be a better way to make Dunkin. Like, you just tag them on every tweet on the whole Dunkin.
Every tweet has a picture of a donut, and then like every 6th tweet has a picture of a cup of coffee, right?
Hashtag Dunkin Chat. Oh, you didn't know we have a chat.
There is a taco chat.
Yeah,
I think taco chat's on Tuesdays, so maybe it should be donut chat. So then you can, because I think you have missed out, Tim Sohn. Have you ever heard of Duck Donuts?
No. Where are they located?
Well, they're located right here in Marietta, Georgia, but they started in Duck, North Carolina, on the Outer Banks. And they have donuts with bacon.
Duck? Do they deliver to Pennsylvania?
Not that I'm aware of, but they are having franchising opportunities. So maybe, and they make them fresh, like they make them for you. You like order them and say, I want this one, and then they make them. They come out piping hot. Amazing.
That's awesome. The funny thing about this whole donut thing and this whole donut joke, I'm always writing donuts randomly or Dunkin' randomly, is I really don't eat that many donuts from Dunkin' Donuts. Like, I get iced coffee and some other things here or there, but donuts, I really don't eat that many donuts. But it generates a lot of conversation, doesn't it?
It does. It's like
the whole catchphrase thing. Catchphrases, repeated phrases do work. I mean, you've been asked by security to leave the set of Houghton.
Yeah, my wife popped in quick.
Safe at Hamilton. Are we okay?
I thought she was bringing in the donuts, but
right.
So this brings up two important points. One, you actually have built kind of a fun community because you have been joking about donuts, and now people know that we can say, "What's your favorite donut?" or "Tell us about donuts," or you, which
I
is
really don't know that much about donuts, though.
They're round. They have a
Well,
hole in the middle.
They're
forget
round.
about your Andrew Peepy 100th episode. It's got to be a donut quiz for Tim.
Oh no, a donut quiz. I do not know the answers to donuts.
donuts, anything, but you have to at least answer one thing for us. Your dream donut, what would it be?
I don't even know. Dunkin' Donuts actually, okay, I actually ate this donut. Dunkin' Donuts had this donut a few years ago. They were actually putting fillings into some of their donuts. And so they had this one that was like apple, I don't know, like apple cinnamon or something like that. I'm trying to remember, they had another one, but that one was really good. Filled donuts are really delicious.
You like the
I would say those are my favorite kind that have something like inside them.
Okay, because here in San Diego, our donuts started growing and getting bigger, and they were being piled with, like Jim said, bacon and cookie, like Oreo candy, and it became this big, like foodie.
It was like a pie. It's like a cake. It's not a donut anymore. It's become a small cake.
And people were lining up for hours to get these gourmet donuts, and it became a big thing. And of course, it's for the Instagram. That's an Instagram picture. So, Tim muted himself.
He got so excited by the word donut.
Well, I wonder though too, like if you also noticed, and it's become a big thing too, is gourmet cupcakes. How many shows have you seen with these gourmet cupcakes? And we have a place here as well, and like you can get the really small ones that are about the size of a donut hole, or you just get, and they have all kinds of like the red velvet cupcakes.
Trying to get the set of Hamilton.
Oh, another character is here from Hamilton.
It's Thomas Jefferson.
We're just talking about donuts. Can you take this phone away, please? The number one rule
throw it in the
of
lake.
live streaming is make sure your phone does not ring during the show.
I love this. This is amazing. But that's important for Instagram. Of course, for restaurants, you want to have the beautiful picture. You want to have the lineups. You want to have the aesthetics to take pictures with. So, of course, for the foodies and the restaurants, that's the biggest reason I think for the giant growing foods and shrinking foods is the aesthetics and the pictures. But yeah, what if you could name one person in the world, alive or dead, who would you like to meet and why?
Jim, you go first.
Oh, I go first. John F. Kennedy.
Oh, JFK.
JFK. Yep.
Good answer.
The owner of Dunkin' Donuts.
What did you say?
I said the owner of Dunkin' Donuts.
The owner of Dunkin' Donuts. We are going to get you guys connected.
Is there only one owner, or is it like a limited? I mean, it might be the biggest shareholder, but they might only have like 10% of it.
Yeah, I know it's owned by a big
CEO or something of Dunkin' Donuts.
I feel like it's important.
Is it one of those like? Is it owned by the same people that have Baskin Robbins now?
Yes. Yeah, because in some of their Dunkin' Donuts, they also have Baskin Robbins as well.
I can't remember if is it Yum Brands maybe?
Oh, Jim, why are you not the Dunkin' ambassador?
Because I'm not a donut guy.
Because he already owns Dunkin' Donuts.
I'm a beer guy. Now, if you told me that I could get a beer sponsorship from like a German beer maker, like Hefeweizen brand, I would probably be all for that. But usually drinking on live streams isn't a good idea.
Okay, so you're a beer person. We've actually had this discussion. We had it with, who did you bring on? May King. May King was talking about beer a little bit, and
well, she had a while trying to get a brewery to do a tea infused beer, but for whatever reason it didn't take off. I think it was like the brewery had financial problems or something, not because they were doing tea beer, but because at the time they were doing it. So I think that was why that happened. The funny thing, the time I met Jim in person was on the the Social Media Marketing World beer tour, which no longer exists. They had like this guy who every year would do a brewery tour So we all got on this bus and just went round like all of the.
I
There's a
think,
lot of very good breweries in San Diego.
yeah, I think this year, Tim, it didn't happen though because they ended the conference on in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
You know, where previously it had ended on a Friday. We ended on what, a Wednesday, I think, or Tuesday.
Well, I know the guy who used to do it.
Yeah, he wasn't there this year.
He wasn't there last year either, I don't think.
But
so.
I think that the oh gosh, Amy and her partner in crime from New Mexico took it over last year.
Oh, Amy and Caitlin.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. San Diego is a
But
great.
maybe it'll come back next year if there's a
demand.
If there's a conference.
It's a good place to do it here. We have some of the best local breweries in the nation, I'd say. Do you remember any of the breweries you went to?
I remember one had this weird speakeasy room, and they had like a the whole rest of the place was like an industrial kind of thing, and then they had this one tiny little room. They had really nice chocolate beer there.
I think is Ballantine. Is that one of the breweries or beers?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. My favorite actually is Belching Beaver.
Oh.
I'm a big stout fan. So they put out a peanut butter stout that is just a peanut butter milk stout. It's dark and rich. And
now can people that are allergic to peanuts have that beer or no?
That's a good question. I don't know.
It's not me, but I know people.
But
you're trying to kill them off, so you want to know.
Here, have this beer.
We have had in San Diego too. Speaking of donuts and beer, we've had tastings with beer and donuts. So imagine a really good stout with a really good donut, and you have the perfect
heart attack.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see if all of these breweries and things survive the COVID crisis, because it could be like they could all end up merging into one massive beer and donut place.
Have you, Jim and Tim, seen communities come around restaurants and maybe small businesses in social media to help them survive this crisis?
Tim?
I mean, you definitely see a lot of support as well as a lot of negativity on social media regarding this whole COVID thing. And but you do see a lot of support for small businesses. I can't say there's anything specific, like any specific campaigns that come to mind. But you do see a lot of comments, especially here. Businesses are starting to open up more next Friday. We go into the yellow phase here in Pennsylvania, so there'll be more businesses opening. So you definitely see a lot of that, but you also see there are some small businesses around here that are permanently shutting down as well, which is really sad, including the only local coffee shop in Milford, Pennsylvania is now closed. So I must go to Dunkin Donuts.
Yeah.
I think here it's been kind of a mix. I think part of the problem is, and I met this guy through a LinkedIn mini Zoom named Leo Quinn, and he's in upstate New York, is a lot of these restaurants weren't prepared. And by that meaning they had never spent any time building their social presence. Like maybe they had a Facebook or an Instagram and they never posted. But I think the bigger problem was they never built a customer list, whether it was by email or by text. And so I think people, like, if they had known, like, hey, I can order from, Dunkin' and they'll have someone deliver it to me, people would have done that, or still willing to do that. My stepson works at a Longhorn Steakhouse, and they basically got to the point where they were doing nothing but, curbside and delivery. And they actually, did quite well. And when everything, him as basically the tips he was getting, it was crazy how much money he was making, because I think people felt like, oh, we want to help these people. So they were tipping even heavier than they would have before in that appreciation. But I also think, and I know, Tim Sohn's getting ready to launch his next live streaming training program. But I think where a lot of these people could have helped themselves is even doing short live videos of like having the chef go live on Facebook and like, hey, we're preparing this special tonight. you can order it this way, that way. But none of them thought about that. And it seemed like I felt like at times that people felt like, oh, this is only going to last a couple weeks.
Mm.
So they did nothing. And then when the couple weeks is up, they're like, oh, now what do we do?
Yeah.
So that's what I saw, at least in our area, that it was really kind of hard to tell at times, like who's open, who's not. They didn't even know how to update their Google to let people know what they had going on, or they were like, you can only order online through our app. You couldn't even get someone to answer the phone. So
Yeah.
the whole aspect of customer service, I think, or the customer experience is missing, and I think that's going to be a challenge going forward because, to Tim's point, some of these businesses have permanently shut down. But then when you even have these folks like, well, if I don't bring in X number of dollars over the next few months, we're going to shut down. Well, is it because you're going to shut down because you don't want to change how you do your business? Or is it that you just have to have such a high volume to keep it moving? And so I think that's some of the fascination, and not just for restaurants, but I think even in the retail sector.
I mean, a lot of these companies have phenomenal brands locally, but their only way of monetizing it before this crisis was their store. And some of the customer loyalty and other things they have. But yeah, I mean, if the store's shut and the website doesn't have a way of contacting them, and even if it does have a way of contact, there's no obvious way to help people, then it's people are going to be like, well, it's unfortunate that
I think
goes down or whatever.
I think too that like some businesses will definitely close because of the financial impact. But I think like it's been like 2-3 months now, so there could be people out there also that are like, it's time for me to do something else. Like maybe this is the opportunity to do something that I've wanted to do for a long time, or maybe they got a new idea, and that could be part of the situation as well, depending on the person, I think.
Right. We had an interesting conversation too with Eddie Garrison last week on our show. And what's funny is after we had that conversation, I've actually talked to a couple other people. So as an example, I don't know if all of you have cars or not, but like Eddie Garrison hasn't, and his wife have not had a car in 4 years.
Mm.
So they get stuff delivered, or if they are going to go somewhere, they take an Uber. I was talking with a guy, he's like, we've had 2 cars, but he goes, we're barely driving. And now that people are kind of thinking about the way ahead, it's like, do I really need 2 cars? It's like made you realize like you can get by without having to jump in a car and go somewhere every day. I mean, we haven't gotten gas since April, and we're kind of like almost like, do we need to get gas this month, or do we try to wait till the beginning of June? Because we go out once a week to the grocery store, and we just haven't really had a need to go anywhere. I mean, we go out, we walk around our neighborhood, but you're paying for car insurance and everything else, and it's hard to say how long this will is really going to last. I mean, I think there's still the concerns of will things come back in the fall when things cool off again?
Mm-hmm.
Or I just think it definitely is going to change people's mindsets. And even going back to the car thing, before this even happened, and I think Tim Lewis, I made a mention this to you before. I had the guy that sold me my Jeep stopped selling Jeeps because he said the demise of the car dealers is coming, where people are not going to need cars. They're going to go to kind of this Uber-like thing, or a company like Amazon will start to own self-driving cars, and you'll just say, hey, I need a car to pick me up and take me here. Because when you really look at the price of owning an automobile, right, that's one of the biggest costs to a lot of families today. So I've been amazed. Even I went to a conference with Marissa Calley in September.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these local folks, this was in the DC area, how many of them didn't own a car? They would Uber everywhere, especially in your large city. Little different, Tim Sohn's out with the bears and the turkeys and the deer. but for those of us that live in a city, if I needed to, I could find ways to get around using, either Uber or public transportation.
Yeah, the funny thing, I mean, I haven't actually had a car for like 2 years because I made that calculation.
Mhm.
One issue that on the bad side is that obviously in London the tube it's going to be running social. It's been running all the time, but it's been right down because people have been at home. But now they're talking about running it in a social distanced way, where the capacity of the tube is like 10, 20% of what it is otherwise. So I think a lot of people in big cities who haven't got cars might be thinking of getting the car or getting around the city. At least in the it depends how long that period is between when things open up and they have to be social distance and when there's kind of either an effective cure, people can't be bothered about it anymore, or there's a vaccine.
Yeah.
Probably be late this year, next year sometime.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think the whole self-driving cars thing is very interesting because you think if you have self-driving cars, then you don't need parking in city centres. So you can just have like your car will take you in, and you can get it. Even if you own a car, you can just get the car to drive itself home again. You don't need to park; it just drop you off.
Right.
Yeah.
So it can make a big difference if it ever happens. Ooh.
Deborah Cole just said the rental car industry and used car market is crashing. Hertz just announced big news and is no longer the giant in rental car business.
Yes, they declared bankruptcy last week.
Wow.
So they're going to reform. And then I even heard, I think it was on the world news late last week, a lot of the big car dealers, they have so many cars that they can't move. They're offering like 0% financing for 72 months. Of course, I don't know if they're going to like give that to anybody. But yeah, it's definitely, there you go.
She says the Wall Street Journal reported Hertz Global Holdings Incorporated, one of the nation's largest car rental companies, filed for bankruptcy protection Friday, saddled with about $19 billion in debt and nearly 700,000 vehicles that have been largely idled because of coronavirus. Wow. So we're seeing the impact nationwide and worldwide across the board. And she put the link there from Forbes.com.
Right.
Yeah, JCPenney filed for bankruptcy as well.
What?
Okay.
JCPenney.
Oh my gosh. Well, and I think was it Nordstrom's?
Yeah.
Nordstrom's or Neiman and Marcus, one of those.
Wow, those are big things. Wow.
I mean, I'm not so surprised with all the stores and things because my late wife Rachel, she used to work as somebody who managed estates for retail, and apparently in retail, especially women's clothing retail, a lot of the company in the UK anyway, and I suspect it's the same in the US, they deliberately go bankrupt so that they can, if they've got, because of all the rental agreements, their biggest cost is rental agreements with their landlords. And it's the only way they can break the agreement with it is to go bankrupt and start again.
Yeah.
So I'm always a bit more suspicious about retail bankruptcies than somebody like Hertz, where there isn't any obvious reason why it must be genuine financial. It's not like they want to break their tenancy agreements or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Jim, you brought up a good point about people, what they can do online a little bit, businesses, nonprofits, kind of what you saw businesses were doing to support each other. And it made me think of the importance of community online. Tim Sohn, you touched on this too, the importance of community online, because something I did notice was that some of our small businesses locally who had already built strong community were able to gather the community to continue supporting them. I'm thinking of a restaurant called Cali Comfort Barbecue here in San Diego. They have a big network, social media wise, community wants to support them. They're big in giving back, and people wanted to just come and purchase their food. And of course they did the drive up and pull up. So they were able to survive. And that's a local brand. And so thinking about the importance of building community and maintaining that community going forward, I think that's key. Is if you didn't have the community before, start building it now, an authentic community and those relationships. But what would be maybe 3 other points that you would give to some of the local small businesses who don't want to give up yet, don't want to shut their doors? What can they do now in social media to move forward?
Tim?
So one I would say is update your Google My Business listing. You can even do Google Posts over there. You can add photos, you can add 30-second videos. So I think Google My Business is something that, Google's been putting more emphasis on, but I wish more businesses would pay attention to it. So that's one. Another was, well, Jim touched on it before, and we've been talking about live streaming, but doing live videos, even if it's something, maybe you're just like showing behind the scenes, maybe you're showing what you're doing that day. I think during this whole coronavirus thing, like we're all going through similar things, but not necessarily similar. Like I'm home with my wife who teaches from home now, and our daughter who learns from home, and I work from home, and we have a 5-year-old. So like, I think there's a lot of opportunity to like tell your own story because a lot of people will be able to relate to it. So those are two things.
You have to come up with 3, Tim.
A third is eat donuts.
Eat donuts. That's a good.
That's always the solution. Eat donuts. Although I don't think Jim will agree with me.
No, I don't. I mean, some people can have donuts. The people that still want the donut, that's fine.
Donuts are reward for a good show.
My friend Leo came up with a really and I think it was someone that actually came up with the idea, but it was it's a local bingo, and you create a Facebook post where you have like a bingo card, and each spot on the bingo card is a business, and maybe you get some people that put in gift cards or whatever. And so if you have a receipt for shopping at each of those places and you get your bingo, then you get entered into a drawing for gift cards and stuff. So that's kind of a way, kind of a low tech, low touch way to help people support, businesses in the community that want to kind of get their face out there. And then you're kind of supporting a group because, I think they still have them. I haven't seen one in a while, but, you used to have those like, big entertainment coupon books, right? That the kids would sell for school.
Wow.
And so in a way, like this is kind of a different way to do that. And then even, the community building, like maybe build a text messaging list off your customers so you can let them know, don't spam them, but maybe once a week, like say, hey, here's our specials of the week, create a loyalty program of some sort. Because I think to what you're bringing up, Christelle, right? If it's something I really like and I know I could get it in a somewhat easy way, like driving through or delivery, I would do it. But if I'm not even aware that it's available, like we have a really wonderful sushi place that we love, and we went there one time during this, but it was really hard to tell, were they open? And then when I called them, like, oh, our menu's on our, on our website, and our website, I couldn't tell if it was the right website. So they didn't make it easy. So I think I would even say it's not even so much about not knowing what the future holds, but it's kind of, you've now got a chance to kind of reset. Like people are going to forgive you a little because of all this that happened, but you got to get ready to be ready if something like this happens again, right? How are you going to handle your employees? Are you going to go away from having, what if you have to stay at 50% capacity in store for the next 6 months? The truth of the matter is, I talked with a local Chinese restaurant guy several months back, and I asked him, how much of your business is delivery? 60% of his business was delivery. So
Wow.
I was surprised how sometimes people think like, oh, well, restaurants make all their money by people coming in and sitting down. They might make more, especially like I think there was I think it was a restaurant on the Jersey beach there was like, oh, well, we can't make money off of takeout drinks and food. And that's probably because what they really want is they want those people to come in and spend lots of money on alcohol. And that's where they make their big dollars. But if they're just getting a drink and going on their merry way, yeah, that's probably not a supportable business model. So I think, it really does require people to kind of really think through, in a sense, the way where you could get away with things in the past because, volume would make up for mistakes that margin of error, I think, is disappeared. I mean, what do you think, Tim Lewis?
Well, the arch capitalist in me, which actually, because I did an economics degree many years ago, would say that obviously if things go on like they are, then if restaurants have to have half capacity, then either the rents that they're paying or the places where they have restaurants have to be paying half the rent or something along those lines, or they have to put their prices up, or as you say, they have to increase their takeout. I mean, a lot of higher class restaurants don't really like the idea of takeout because it's associated with lower end restaurants, which is so a Chinese restaurant in general, they're not considered high end in the UK or the US or anywhere, even though the same principle could really apply with any restaurant. They just need to kind of have the cojones to do it, or they have to go properly high end and like double their prices or whatever it needs to do. So I think if this lasts forever, which it probably won't, then obviously, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make a big change, but there will be somebody who can run that restaurant in that property or some other thing that property will be used for. So.
But I think also to your point, Tim, I think the challenge for a property owner, right, is do you want no rent or is some rent better than no rent at all? Because if your space stays empty, because nobody's going to be in this mood to go in like, oh, I want to get this brick and mortar place and not be able to have anybody come in it. I think that's a real challenge. And I think that those fixed costs, I think, is what have been the challenge for some of these small business owners because they're not getting in the revenue to even offset that, let alone their employees. And so I think to your point, right, they may not like the stigma of carryout, but I also think there's been a change in psychology of people from the perspective of people have said, oh, it's not so bad to eat at home and to make our own meals or even get takeout and have the meal at home, where before it was like, oh, let's get out of the house. Of course, I think now people want to get out of the house because they're around each other all the time. Getting out of the house.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
you broke into the set of Hamilton.
I told you, don't tell.
If a business wants to contact Tim or Jim, how can you help them to further their social media presence, or what is it that you offer businesses?
Tim?
So starting on June 1st, which is just a few days away, I'm starting, well, it's going to be my second round of what I call the Survive with Live Video Bootcamp. So it's a 2-month program. We have a Facebook group, work with anybody who wants to start their own consistent live show like you guys do, like we do. We cover everything from how to get past the fear of being on camera to what to talk about, to the tech, to how to promote your show and a lot more. So that's coming up on June 1st. And if anybody's interested in that, they can message me, or they could go to Sohn, that's SOHN, socialmediasolutions.com. And so that's one thing I have going on. I've been focusing a lot on helping people start their own shows as well as live remote producing. So if somebody wants to basically show up for their show and talk, but have somebody else behind the scenes, everything from helping to promote the show potentially to actually being the man behind the curtain, bringing on remote guests, pulling up graphics and things like that. And I know Jim does that as well. So those are some things in a nutshell.
Wonderful. Jim, what do you?
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of consulting with small businesses. So I give a half an hour free Zoom call where they can set up a time with me, and we'll kind of look at some of their big picture things. What is it they're trying to accomplish? And then I can, give them some different, options as far as, whether they want to work with me, or I also collaborate with some other folks that, like, I'm not a web designer, but I have web designers I work with. But also just sometimes getting them to think, in a sense, as I like to say, you know, the mad scientist outside the box, because times are changing, right? I mean, to Tim's point, video, you know, there's always been this thing like, you know, years ago, like Cisco was like, oh, video is going to become the king of content. Well, video is still becoming the king of content. It's still not there. But when you really look at the percentages, right? I think there's 650 million people on LinkedIn. 1% of them are creators. 1%. 90% are stalkers, right? They're watching your stuff. Those are the people watching the show right now that are afraid to hit the like or love button or make a comment like Deborah did, right? They're out there. We know you're out there because they come up to you sometimes like, hey, I like your show. It's like, I didn't know you watched it. So that's another piece of it. So even if it's recording a video and repurposing it, right? The importance of captioning, right? For people in the, you know, for accessibility issues, or the fact that 80% of people have the sound off when they're watching a video, which I still haven't figured that one out. But now that Facebook does captions, I guess they can somewhat see what we're saying, even though we might not see it. But I help that. And then, like Tim said, I've been doing a lot of remote live stream production. I've been helping a event company out of Virginia keep their name out in front of their potential clients, because virtual events may become a kind of a something that's almost a piece of any event for the foreseeable future. Like there may be a hybrid. So as an example, when we interviewed Hilton Worldwide Sales, you know, they gave out the DoubleTree cookie recipe, right? That was a huge hit with people.
Wow.
You know? And so that's even a way for people to think in their business, like, what can I give away that makes me top of mind? You know, so those are some of the things that I like to, you know, talk with, you know, potential clients about, is like, what can we do to, you know, because it's not always about selling. Sometimes it's about how are you adding value.
So what are you going to give away today then?
What's that?
What are you going to give away today then?
Today I'm giving away anybody that connects with me on LinkedIn at Jim Fuhs. Tell me that you saw me on the Oh No, Not Another live show. I will give you a free 1-hour consultation.
And where all can they find you, Jim? You told us.
So I've got my Twitter handle is on the screen here at Fusion Marketing, and then if you just look for me at Jim Fuhs on LinkedIn, and also Fusion Marketing spelled out on Facebook, Instagram. I have to remember to check my Instagram and Twitter. You know, they're all the time, and also have a company page on LinkedIn as well.
Wonderful. It's, you know, so often we work so hard behind the scenes and we just don't have time to think about the marketing and get creative. So to be able to reach out to people who know what they're doing, who are authentic in doing it, like Jim and Tim, that's a big deal for small businesses and nonprofits and people who want to get creative and want to keep moving forward. So, and can we put your links on our comments?
Absolutely.
You put your links on our comments,
we will do that. Awesome.
We'll keep tweeting you out and letting people know about you.
Absolutely.
Yes. And people should watch Oh No, Not Another live show, because you also have another episode coming up Thursday, don't you?
We do. We do. I always need help.
Yeah, see how I help you market your own show?
I always need help. Jim and Tim are gracious enough to come on and help me with the questions that.
That's why these guys get paid big bucks and can afford to live in the Hampton set. So.
And I have a question for Tim Lewis. What is behind your?
Oh, well, today's
very important
one was I was conjugating the verb to dunking. So I Dunkin, they Dunkin.
Duncan, he Duncan, they Duncan. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anybody didn't know that there was actually a verb to Dunkin.
I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the funny thing is, I moved this ball down, and then I was like, the trouble is, it's so obvious on all the live streams and Zoom calls. The original purpose to actually write important stuff on it was like, everybody kept asking me about the stuff on the board, so I thought I'd just deliberately write something weird on the board every time.
And now we have to ask. It's always something fun. So, Jim and Tim, thank you so much for joining us on the show. We're going to have your links up in a bit. This was fun, finally getting to chat with you in person. And Tim, Lewis.
Yes, and I'm going to play the outro video music that I've been working on for almost 30 seconds before the show. And it was great to have you guys on the show. And
thank you for having us.
Your next show is tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow, 12 Eastern on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel, which we would love for people to subscribe to the Tim and Jim Show YouTube channel. We're just 12 people short of 100. So please help us get to 100 if you haven't subscribed yet. And yeah, it'll be fun. Jeff C. is a great guy. You know, he has a bigger beard than me. Obviously, bigger beard than Tim.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He already has a long beard pre-corona.
Yes.
So fun. And thank you, Deborah, for commenting. I see your comments and contributing to the conversation, and the viewers for watching. Thank you. Tim and Jim, we'll see you soon.
Thank you.